To those who have accidentally killed someone, what went wrong? When I was 17 I hit a motorcyclist with my car. It was late at night, and he was in the roadway wearing all black after crashing. His motorcycle slid off the road and down an embankment, and I didn't see him. I was traveling about 60 miles per hour. When I hit him, he was on his knees attempting to get up. I could see his face. When I hit him, I still see his face. His blood alcohol content was 3 times higher than the legal limit, and he had apparently just left a nearby dive bar after fighting the bartender to get his keys back. The local small town newspaper released my name unlawfully in the story. The motorcyclist happened to be the uncle of a classmate of mine. I joined the Marines shortly after to continue my life of killing. Not sure if it was accidental, but while in college in my first apartment, I came home from work at 3 AM. Some dude was in the hallway outside my door, and I had a bad feeling about it. I paused and went to get the mail, hoping he would leave. Nope. I come back, and he is waiting at my door. I asked him what was up, and he said he was looking for John. My name is not John, and I lived alone. I asked him to move and let me in my door. He told me to fuck off and get John. I slid between him and the door, opened it, and he pushed his way in. I pushed him out. He took a swing at me. I swung back, hitting him in the eye, which caused him to fall back and hit his head. Out cold. Forever. Apparently John was the guy who lived in the apartment before me. The dead guy spent 5 years in jail because of John ratting him out for drugs. Dead guy came to get some revenge. Got dead instead. A good friend of mine was killed by his best friend. They had gotten deep into meth and got into an argument one night. Dude hit other dude in the chest with a shovel. The shovel went right between his ribcage and pierced his heart. It was a semi-freak accident. He didn't mean to kill him, although hitting someone with a shovel is some serious shit. Friend went to prison. Don't do meth, kids. Edit. To clarify, he said he did intend to hit him with the flat part of the shovel, but when he made contact it was the side of the shovel that pierced him. According to the autopsy it wasn't even that hard of a hit, it just happened to hit perfectly in the right place. If it had been 1/4 inches in either direction he would have walked away with a cut. Don't do meth, and don't hit people with anything in the chest, unless you intend to kill them. My SOS teacher accidentally killed his wife. It was a horrific story. They both worked at the same school and he dropped her off before parking because it was bitter cold. She shut the door on her scarf and tried to get it out, but the husband didn't realize and started to drive off. Her neck snapped and she died instantly, but her face was dragged along the ground a good distance. This all happened right in front of an elementary school with kids going inside. I can't imagine the guilt that guy lives with. Fell asleep at the wheel. Single most heart-wrenching experience of my life. Just a reminder to any of you who have been drowsy while driving. Pull over. My cousin accidentally shot and killed his older teenage-age brother in a hunting accident. His brother died in his arms while he screamed for help. He had to switch schools because the kids bullied him about it, teasing him about killing his own fucking brother. Kids are cruel. Not using a throwaway. Don't care. I killed my wife. Not directly. Not intentionally. She was 22 and beautiful and hilarious and smart and wonderful. Haunts me 22 years later. Draws me to the edge from time to time. We dated all through college. More than just a girlfriend. People who met us knew we were perfect together. She was an old soul, and I easily envisioned us growing old together, even at age 21. She made me believe in myself. I was invincible with her. An aspiring pilot in college, engineering major, I wanted to fly helicopters. I applied to the US Army to be an officer and pilot. It's an intense, frustrating year-long process. She helped me study for the written exam. 2 days before I graduated, I was accepted to flight training in the US Army. We were married a month later on the beach in Goleta, California. She gave me Army aviator wings on our wedding night. For a brief moment, my life was utterly perfect. 2 months after I joined the army, I was a semester ahead of her. She graduated UXB while I was in training. I couldn't attend her graduation ceremony. I was at Feet, Rucker, Alabama. 3 days after she graduated, she packed her car and drove cross country to be with me. I was at a point in my training where I could live off base as a married man. She was worried about driving that far alone. She told me so, but I discounted her fears. But the truth is that I was a hot-blooded 24-year-old married man and eager to resume my sex life. I encouraged her to make the long drive alone. Looking back, my penis was talking more than my brain. A few days later, Mizo called me into his office. He flat out told me directly that she was dead, that she died in a car accident. Later, I learned that she was pushing herself and fell asleep at the wheel. A witness, a woman driving behind her, later wrote to tell me her account. She told me she held my wife's hand while she died. For 2 years, I was a shell, a ghost. I quickly exhausted my emergency leave from the army and then applied for a hardship discharge. I never got my wings. For 2 years, I was lost among the living, dead inside. I had to live with the fact that I pushed her to drive across the USA, even though she had concerns, all because I wanted sex. That was 1994. It's been 22 years. I eventually remarried and had kids. But not a day goes by I don't think of her. God help me. I was 14, I got a kitten. I've always had trouble socializing with people, and I've just always liked animals more in general, and have mentally and physically treated them better than I would treat my own actual family sometimes. A 15-year-old who lives directly next to me, who had a history of behavioral issues, had hopped the fence, and had wrapped my cat in a plastic grocery bag. I wasn't sure if he was trying to steal my cat, or to just suffocate it, but I wasn't going to wait to find out. With a running start I tackled him into the wire fence, and he immediately started bleeding profusely from his head. At this point my 90-pound goofball of a lab heard what was going on outside, and as soon as he saw me next to something bleeding his natural instincts kicked in, and he went all out on the kid, probably thinking that I was in trouble. I tried to get him to stop, but it clearly was futile. I ran inside to tell my parents and call the police, but by the time the police and ambulance showed up he was already dead. I know that I should feel bad about it, and I kind of do now, but at the time I certainly didn't. Not me, but my ex. Didn't date too long cause we were from different states. Months before we dated, he was married to his wife. They were happily married, or so it seemed. They had their ups and downs like any other couple. He said at one point that she said she would not know how to live without him. One night, they got into a fight. A big fight. From what he was telling me, they were arguing about counseling, and she flat out refused to go cause she didn't need fixed. It escalated from there, and she slapped him. After that he told her that's it. We're done. She was screaming and crying, but he already walked out of the house. He went outside for a smoke. A few moments later, she rushes out, throws a piece of paper at him and keeps going. He was slowly reading the note cause it was dark, but the note was saying about who to take what to and to take her dog to her mom who lived in Iowa. It was signed "I'm sorry I cannot live without you." He looked up. Bam. She shot herself in front of him. He screamed and ran to her. He was also going to kill himself, but their roommate took the gun away first to protect him. He was placed in a psych ward for 3 days. He always blamed himself, and it was difficult to convince him otherwise. I had always feared he would have followed suit eventually, especially after the investigation where they returned all his guns back including the one she used. On a good note, he is engaged to someone else, and he hasn't had those thoughts in a long time. TL. Doctor, if someone tells you I can't live without you, don't have second thoughts about that statement. Technically I didn't kill the person, and in no way am I responsible, but this instance still haunts me a bit. So my soccer team was coming home after a game. Everything was pretty typical. It was getting dark. Everyone was chatting. I had earbuds and my thirds out ignoring them. I felt the bus turn onto the main highway we took. Nothing unusual. It was then that I felt the back end of the bus lurch into the air and then screaming. I first thought, did he just do some weird sort of wheelie or some shit? If only. I looked back and I saw broken glass and about half of a company van. Inside the back of the bus, the driver was killed on impact. He was driving about 60 miles per hour and was most likely texting, so no brakes. We got out and instantly knew the driver's chance of survival. None of the team was hurt past some broken glass in my hair and a bit of whiplash. but I never want to sit in the back of a bus again. TL. Doctor, fuck buses and texting while driving. My friend asked me to hang out. I said I wasn't free that day because I had tutoring. We made plans to hang out 2 days later. A few hours after the last message she sent, my friend had died because of her family's car malfunctioning. It hasn't been that long ago, and I still wonder if I could have stopped her getting in the car. Age 13. Summer job babysitting a sibling group. Twins 3, younger brother 1.5, and nap time was 1 PM. Normally napped in their rooms, but this day, for some reason, they wanted to sleep in parents' room. 30 minutes later, a gunshot rings out. One of the twins found a gun in his dad's nightstand and shot his brother. If only they would have been in their rooms. We had a motorcycle ride arranged for the weekend. Go have lunch in Spain and get back before dinner. A third and fourth female friends were invited to ride with us. At the last hour, literally 1 hour before departing, my friend uninvited the 2 females. A guy's day out, he called it. His father and 2 other guys were joining us, each on its bike. It was a bit rude, but I complied and asked forgiveness to the person who was going to come with me. On my way back, I had a really stupid and very violent crash. Lost my arm in the process, almost lost my life. No one died, but the idea that I was supposed to have a pillion with me scared me straight. I swore I'd never ride with someone on the back seat ever again. Too much responsibility. If they were to lose an arm because of my mistake, or worse, lose their life, I'd never forgive myself. Kid I went to high school with accidentally shot his friend in the heart. He was a fucking idiot, and the story I heard was he was fucking around with a loaded gun that he thought didn't work and was pointing it at people, pulling the trigger to freak them out. Turns out it just didn't work well. I'm not at all savvy with firearms, but it didn't fire 50 times in a row, then it fired fine once. Not me, but my coworker. She was driving, and a man dove in front of her car and she ran him over. Turns out the man was homeless, drug addict, and had severe mental issues. Basically, it was concluded that he had committed suicide. It haunts her, and she tells me she wakes up crying because she remembers his face right before it happened. My friend's brother was having sex with his ex-girlfriend, also mother of his child. They were doing drugs, maybe coke, and drinking. He had a gun, and when they were getting dressed he started playing with it, twirling it around and whatnot. He accidentally shot the gun and hit her somewhere where it should have not been fatal. However, she was on blood thinners because of some health issue she was having, and she just bled to death, even though he called 911 right away and tried helping her. He is in jail now and suffering because he killed the mother of his child, and now his child wants nothing to do with him either, so he lost 2 people. Not me, but a guy that comes into my convenience store I work at killed someone on accident. Pretty much a regular comes in like he always does for his noon Heineken tall boy purchase. Then comes along a very desperate man that needs those last Heineken that the man before him got. Begs the regular for them. Regular pretty much tells the guy to piss off. Then they pretty much just start fighting each other. The guy that was begging starts a fight with the regular. The regular beats the crap out of him. The guy waddled to his car. He then proceeds to sit in his car for 4 or 5 hours. The way the parking lot is set up, you couldn't see the defeated man's car from the register. My coworker goes to bring the trash outside to the dumpster and notices the defeated man's car. Goes to check on him, since it's been several hours. Man's dead. Heart attack right after the fight. He died over a Heineken tall boy. A Heineken tall boy. My uncle has been in prison for about the last 19 years or so. He was on drugs and pulled a gun out during an argument with his girlfriend and was waving it around. The gun accidentally goes off, goes through a wall and hits his best friend, who was in the other room, straight in the heart. The family knew the 2 were good friends and that it was an accident and didn't want to press charges. But the judge didn't care. My uncle had a previous record, so he sent him away. He gets out this year, so I'm really curious how he adapts to how different everything has become since the 90s.